Magic the Gathering was the last game we talked about having been inducted into the Board Game Hall of Fame. And it's slightly contentious because some people don't consider it a board game. But this next one is more than likely the first game you think of when you think of a game that should be in the Board Gaming Hall of Fame, Catan. This is the game when I got into the hobby 15 years ago or so. This was the game everyone talked about as being their gateway game. This was the big Euro game that was made in Europe, European style game that made it big in America. In fact, before it was published in the US, people were bringing German copies over and putting paste-ups on the cards of the German text so they could play it in English. It was just a phenomenon. Now, as a gateway game, that meant that people played this. This was probably the first board game they played outside of the ones they grew up with, like Monopoly and Sorry and Risk and things. And they said, this is doing something different. They would get together groups all the time to play this game. And eventually, the success of this led to other Euro-style games coming to the US and people getting a chance to try other games that were very different from what they played as a child, and eventually steamrolled, took off into the hobby games that we see on the shelves today. I can tell you my first experience with Catan was actually at a summer camp I was teaching at. And so some of the other teachers like, hey, we've got this game, let's play it. And the first few times I played Catan were 6-player games with both cities and knights and, what is the seaside one? I forget what it was, Seafarers. So I thought Catan was this big, epic game that took 4 hours to play. It wasn't until much later that I realized, oh no, if you just play the base game at 3 or 4 players, it's pretty quick, very interesting game. I definitely think it belongs, if any game belongs in the Board Game Hall of Fame, this one does. It's still a pretty good seller for us. It's not one that we necessarily talk about or show off very much, but people have heard of it. People remembered playing it or they remembered their friends talking about it. They come and pick it up, sometimes some of the expansions, but really the base game is the one that stays on our shelf as not just an artifact of where gaming has come from, but still a gateway game for a lot of people. That's Catan. Definitely worth being in the Board Game Geek Hall of Fame. I'm Kylie at Games Unlimited. Go trade with someone, avoid the robber, and unbox some fun.